United finally got what they wanted this weekend. They beat Manchester United 2-1 and in doing so inflicted the first defeat of the season on the reigning champions.
5 games had gone past without Leeds scoring against United, but they broke the barren spell with a goal straight out of pantomime from young defender David Weatherall. The slapstick went on at United's cost. Brian McClair almost took the head off Mark Hughes. And for the first time in a long time, the Reds' defence looked anything but the back line of the champions. 3 times in the space of a minute, Leeds went desperately close to doubling their lead. Brian Deane was the guilty man that time. But shortly after the break, that was all forgotten as another of English football's rising brigade of young strikers, Noel Whelan, set up Deane for a second. It was midway through the second half before United found any kind of rhythm, but John Lukic was equal to Mark Hughes' volley. Still though, Leeds were made to sweat after what appeared to be a generous piece of refereeing by David Ellery. United given a penalty for Brian Deane's foul on Paul Ince, a challenge that looked more out of the area than in. Eric Cantona, once the darling of Ellen Road of course, made casual work of the spot kick. That left an anxious last few minutes for the Leeds faithful, and many a Yorkshire heart missed a beat as Steve Bruce was inches off target in the dying seconds. A rare victory though for Leeds against the champions, and United already 5 points adrift now of the leaders Newcastle. Chris Scudder, Sky News.
And that after going behind in the first half. Ryan Giggs scored twice. There was also goals from Andrei Kanchelskis and Lee Sharp. So United go top of their Champions League on goal difference from Barcelona, but for a while tonight it looked as if it was all going horribly wrong for the champions.
So much expected at Old Trafford, but not this. 26 minutes gone and Gothenburg take the lead. Pettersson getting between defence and Schmeichel. 6 minutes later though and United level. Hughes' cross only half cleared. Giggs on his left foot. The perfect start to the second half from Kanchelskis. But just a minute later it was 2-2. Rin getting the touch to evade Schmeichel. 65 minutes gone and United could breathe again. Fantastic from Ince. Giggs with the follow-up. The replay showing just what a strike it was. 5 minutes later it was 4-2. Lee Sharp getting in for the goal. 4-2 the way it ended, and what an advert for British and European football. Paul Bell, Sky News.
Registered their second Premiership win of the season. They beat Norwich 2-1 in the East Anglian derby, their first win at Portman Road for 12 years.
Since selling Chris Sutton to Blackburn, Norwich had only found the net once this season. But the header from new captain John Newsom gave Rob Newman a simple tap-in to open the scoring. A free kick from 30 yards out gave Ipswich a chance to get back into the game. Gavin Johnson's shot crashed against the crossbar. They equalised in injury time though. Newsom's rash tackle on Marshall gave away a penalty. And player coach John Walk was confidence personified from the spot. The driving rain brought the ground staff out at half-time to remark the lines, and it proved a crucial exercise. Norwich were themselves awarded a penalty shortly after the break. The tackle on Crook came outside the area, but referee Roger Dilks decided it was inside after consulting his linesman. And Carl Bradshaw put Norwich back in front after Forrest saved the penalty. Crook came as close as you can get to adding a third, but the crossbar saved Forrest before the Ipswich goalkeeper saved at the feet of Mike Sherrin to deny the former Manchester City striker a debut goal for his new club. Another long-range effort again came close to giving Norwich a 2-goal cushion, but Forrest prevented Jeremy Goss adding to his collection of spectacular goals with a fine save. Norwich were by now in total control, but Sherrin must have sensed it wasn't going to be his night. After finally beating Forrest, the woodwork again came to Ipswich's rescue. Mark O'Leary, Sky News.
Of the Premiership leaders Newcastle United after beating Queen's Park Rangers 3-2 in a thriller today at the City Ground. Stan Collymore scored the winning goal 2 minutes from the end after Queen's Park Rangers had twice fought back to equalise. At Stamford Bridge, West Ham won for only the second time this season, beating Chelsea 2-1, and at both games all the goals came in the second half.
After a lacklustre first half, the game exploded into life in a frantic 12-minute period. Kingsley Black opened the scoring for Forest with a brilliant effort after 51 minutes. But just 3 minutes later, a dreadful mistake by Cooper let in Les Ferdinand, who finished off in his usual deadly way. But Forest were back in front in the 63rd minute when Brian Roy stabbed the ball in from a goalmouth scramble. Both sides played some great attacking stuff as the game went on, and it was no surprise when Rangers levelled it 6 minutes from time. A great turn and shot from out of favour Bradley Allen. That made it 2-2 and the draw looked like a fair result. But just 2 minutes from time, that man Stan Collymore used all his pace and strength to bang in the winner. His 6th goal of the season, Forest up to second place in the Premiership and just 2 points behind the leaders Newcastle.
In the land. They had to be content with a share of the spoils after the Premiership's most intriguing game of the season so far. Perhaps it didn't quite live up to pre-match billing, but there was a great finish and the final score at St James's Park. Newcastle United 1, Blackburn 1.
For the first time this season, a restless Kevin Keegan. The flowing football that's held the Premiership spellbound so far was missing, and Alan Shearer sounded the alarm bells in the opening minutes. Newcastle's tide of goals was stemmed. Robert Lee's shot their best effort in an undistinguished first half. The second half brought greater purpose, but still no breakthrough. Andy Cole turned the Blackburn defence, but couldn't beat Tim Flowers. Then, on 58 minutes, Blackburn went in front. Jason Wilcox brought down by Pavel Cernicek in the box. A penalty kick, and Alan Shearer made routine work of his 8th goal of the season. The leaders responded quickly, and Peter Beardsley's volley clipped the crossbar. Blackburn could have wrapped it up with a second goal shortly afterwards, but Cernicek kept Newcastle in the game with an acrobatic save from Chris Sutton. Predictably, the Magpies threw everything forward, and just 2 minutes away from losing their unbeaten record, Steve Howie forced a scrambled equaliser. A point apiece, and Newcastle remain the side they've got to beat. Chris Scudder, Sky News.
The meeting of last season's top two lived up to all the billing. Paul Warhurst with a sort of spectacular effort that either goes in or out of the ground. His strike put Blackburn ahead. Controversy surrounded Manchester United's equaliser on the stroke of half-time as Lee Sharp went down under the challenge from Henning Berg. Referee Gerald Ashby gave a penalty and sent Berg off for a second bookable offence. That, despite replays showing the Norwegians seemed to play the ball and not the man. As expected, Eric Cantona was his usual cool self from the spot to put United level. But Colin Hendry restored Blackburn's lead after the break with a little help from Peter Schmeichel. Within a minute, though, United were level again. Hendry's attempted clearance fell to Kanchelskis. It was all square. Blackburn then pressed the self-destruct button. Graham Lassau's back pass led in Mark Hughes to put United in front for the first time. Paul Ince had the chance to extend United's lead, but his shot was saved by Tim Flowers. When Ince did put the ball in the net, he was offside. 10 minutes from time, though, United made sure of the points. 10-man Blackburn had to chase the game, leaving themselves open at the back. And Kanchelskis showed great composure to score his second and complete a memorable afternoon, as Rovers' unbeaten home record was ruined. Mark O'Leary, Sky News.
Score Leeds 2, Leicester 1. Goals from Gary McAllister and Noel Willan for Leeds, Mark Blake for Leicester.
It was Leicester who looked the livelier in the early stages at Elland Road, but it was Leeds who had the opportunities. Rod Wallace went close after 15 minutes. Then Gary Speed should have done a lot better with his header. Wallace then almost opened the scoring, although Gavin Ward in the Leicester goal did get down well. United finally went in front just after the half hour, thanks to a superb piece of individual skill from Gary McAllister, although the Leicester defence did seem guilty of ball watching. Julian Joachim almost hit straight back, but John Lukic spread himself well to stop what looked a certain goal. Soon after the interval, Leicester got their deserved equaliser when Mark Draper played the perfect through ball for Mark Blake, this time Lukic unable to get to the ball. Straight from the kick-off, Speed should have reinstated the lead. A couple of minutes later and Leeds must have been wondering what they had to do to get the ball in the net. They did though in the 67th minute when teenager Noel Whelan headed his 6th goal of the season. That was enough to secure the points. Leeds continue their march up the Premiership. Leicester still without an away win. Paul Bell, Sky News.
He watched his first match in charge, but he had to wait until the second half before Everton first seriously threatened Liverpool's goal, and McCatchy denied by James. From the resulting corner, Royal and Everton got the goal they desperately wanted. Duncan Ferguson heading in his first goal for the club and sending the blue half of Merseyside crazy with delight. Everton should have wrapped the game up with 20 minutes left. Ebrel's pass found right out clear with only James to beat, but the striker's shot rebounded off the post. Liverpool nearly snatched a last-gasp equaliser through Rob Jones, but as the final whistle approached, Joe Royal's fairy tale start was confirmed. James failed to punch clear, and Rideout stretched out a long leg to seal Everton's biggest win of the season and move them off the bottom of the Premiership for the first time since the 10th of September. John Roeder, Sky.
The crowd of almost 5,000 may have been expecting a repeat of Saturday's 4-4 thriller. Instead, it was decided by just one goal, scored by Woking fullback Mark Tucker in the 37th minute. A corner from the former Chelsea star Clive Walker was missed by Barnet keeper Gary Phillips, the ball sitting up nicely for Tucker to fire home from the edge of the 6-yard box. Barnet manager Ray Clements could only look on in despair as his side missed several chances to equalise and take the game into extra time. One of them falling to Carl Hoddle, brother of the Chelsea manager, but his powerful header going the wrong side of the post. And in the final moments, both Hoddle and Barnet substitute Mickey Tomlinson were in with the chance of levelling the tie, but Tomlinson screwed his shot wide of the post. Celebrations for the non-league side at the final whistle. Only the FA Cup can produce dressing room scenes like this. Barnet go out, Woking away to Marlow in the second round. Bob Mills, Sky News.
The match went to penalties after extra time with a cruel finish for the captain of the Premier Club.
Celtic thought they'd done enough when Charlie Nicholas picked them 2-1 up in the 86th minute. But with just 2 minutes left to play, skipper Gordon Deal levelled the scores. Half an hour of extra time produced no more goals and it went to penalties. The first 10 went in, then substitute Jason Rowbottom made it 6-5 to Wraith. Celtic skipper Paul McStay had to score to keep them in it, but he hadn't reckoned on Wraith keeper Scott Thompson. That was it. Wraith had won their first League Cup for 45 years. They're now in Europe with potential fixtures against the likes of AC Milan. It'll be interesting to find out how long their European opponents spend looking for Wraith on the map. Paul Bell, Sky News.